Hey, welcome to another episode of Sober Not Sane. Follow us on Instagram at Sober Not Sane. Subscribe, like, and watch on YouTube. Listen us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can find me. There's very few Jebb Finks in the world. Before we start, big thank you to Liz from the camera store for helping us out with the equipment here. And our guest, Matt Watterworth.
Hey.
I've never heard that last name.
Oh, really? Yeah, it's pretty rare. There's only one other Matt Watterworth in the world that I'm aware of, and he's in England.
So also easy to find on the internet.
Right. I was going to say.
You were actually.
Oh, good. And it's such a power move that you're just like, yeah, just Google me. And you can, and it works, right? That's awesome.
Yeah, I actually one time did a show, and I found a comedian from Florida with the last name Fink and flew him up to open for me to have two Finks on the
Just
bill.
for the bit? I love it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So you have Full Swing Productions.
Yes, yeah.
And I went to the website.
Right.
And you have something that I had no idea pertained as much to our show
Right.
as it does.
Right.
You have a new movie.
Yes, so we just had the world premiere of Jonesin at the Calgary International Film Festival a week ago Thursday. So very fresh. Very, first time we're hearing an audience react to it. And we sold out, and so they gave us a second screening, and I guess a bunch of people watched it online too because it's COVID, and a lot of people are watching on the VOD. So yeah, we did okay. We just got a rejection from another film festival though, so that's a good tempers the.
What's their number? Let's call them.
Let's figure out what happened.
No, we don't want to come to your film festival.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're too good for you. So obviously, Jonesin got a bit of drugs in it.
Indeed. Yeah.
What's the nut story?
Yeah, so it's basically the story of like a small town cowboy named Deke who heads to he's driving back from his grandmother's funeral, stops into the big city to go to the bathroom, and in a case of mistaken identity is mistaken for the leader of a gang, and it's filled with inept gangsters and yes, lots of drugs and
Big city cowboy gang?
He's the fish out of water.
Right. Yeah, I gotcha.
But yeah, I mean, Jonesin is an interesting title that we don't talk about very much, but some people get it and some people don't, right? But you got it right away. So.
Yeah, funny that.
I didn't mean to.
But is it on Apple Play? Like, can people see it now?
Not yet. So our first movie, which is on the website, is called In Plain View, and I directed that one. That one's on Amazon Prime. But this new one we literally finished 2 weeks ago. Like we didn't even finish the film, so until like days before the premiere. So
wow.
So yeah, it was exciting and scary and weird to be saying, "Hey, come buy tickets to this movie that's not done yet." But all worked out fine, and so yeah, we're hoping that we'll get into some sort of distribution situation. And what's nice about being in the festival is it actually drummed up enough interest from a couple of distribution companies who've knocked on our door to see if
nice.
they want to work together. So we'll see what happens. Yeah.
That's
never
great.
And we've never done the festival. Like the first film didn't do very well with festivals at all, so we've never really done the festival thing. So we want to spend some time there first too. So yeah, hopefully people can catch it.
Well, is that a good launching pad for a film, or is it just one of the paths you can follow?
Yeah. Well, it's a weird time to ask that question too, right? Because I mean, even Disney and Warner, they don't know what they're doing with releasing a film anymore because COVID has messed so much up. But yes, I mean, traditionally you can go to a film festival and yeah, there's publicists sort of promoting your film, and there are potentially distributors, or if you're at one of the massive festivals like TIFF or Cannes or South by Southwest, there's people in the audience who can make your life change for sure. So yeah, people have certainly had success that way. Yeah.
So TIFF, this you had on the website that you're no longer the newbies there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we had. So that was back in 2014. We went to TIFF, and that changed my whole understanding of film and television in a big way. Because, and I think this goes back to you and maybe your career to some degree. I'd love to chat about the Alberta scene, the Calgary scene,
right,
just for entertainment and arts. Because no offense to this province, which I love, grew up in Edmonton, been living here for more than 10 years, but coming out of the subway into downtown during TIFF was a different experience. There was people handing me the TIFF newspaper.
Right.
And there's a band playing right now, and it's a TIFF thing, and there's a comedian doing that, and there's people dressed up like horror movie characters handing out hey, come see this film, and it's a different world, right? Just by virtue of, population, but also
Volume.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. But also like there's a community there that's been built over time. So yeah, it's worked its way up to being one of the biggest film festivals in the world. So I don't mean to compare because you can't, but obviously it's just it was a totally different experience. Yeah. So it was interesting.
Yeah, it's funny because we do comedy festivals.
Right.
And it rotates on which ones are the big ones.
Oh, okay.
And, all of a sudden it went, biggest comedy festival is now Aspen.
Oh.
And then Just for Laughs is going, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah, I always thought it was Just for
shots.
Laughs.
And now I think they actually have, Just for Laughs has them throughout the U.S. too.
Okay.
So, and to me, that's a totally different thing because for the comedy festivals, it's about 200 comics invading a hotel and spending all their money in the bar.
Right.
Which I would imagine there's a bit of that.
100%, of course, yeah.
But I think it's a little more business oriented for film.
I mean, there's a seedy underbelly of every that time in 2014. I don't say I partied with Harvey Weinstein, but I was at a party that Harvey Weinstein was at, and just that in and of itself was like, this is weird, because even then he had a reputation, right? But he, just for being such a huge Hollywood name, it was weird. It's just like a different world. Yeah,
I think there's a lot of people cutting him out of their pictures.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Burn that part.
Totally, yeah. We actually had a meeting with one of his staff the next day, and I asked him like, what's it like working for him? And he's like, oh, it's a trip. Like it's interesting. He didn't expand, but it was implied that it's an interesting job for sure.
I've never. We did a show with CBC called American in Canada, and then I've pitched a lot of stuff in LA, and I don't know how you pitch a whole movie.
Yeah, I don't know if I do either. That's a good question. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. How do you? Like I kept sitting there going, if it was a comedy audience, I'd know how to get hooks in them and bring them in.
Right. Yeah.
And you're sitting with the people from the heads of CBS comedy, and you're pitching this comedy, and they're staring at you.
Right.
And at one point, I stopped and I said, "Are you sure you guys run the fucking comedy department?"
Nice.
And they said, yeah, we do. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, see ya.
And we get in the car and leave. And they call and go, we want to see you guys again. Like, I just offended them. And he goes, I don't know.
But that might have been the thing that changed it, right?
Could be.
Yeah. There's a story, a filmmaker I know who was telling me he was pitching a script of his, and the producer was just like, I'm not interested. But they kind of knew each other, so he was like, but how's your family? And he says, oh, I killed all those fuckers. And he's like, let me read this script.
Whatever it takes. Create a little interest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Just in case it's on page 42 that, he did.
Oh, yeah.
Look at that.
But yeah, I mean, it's a massive undertaking. People don't understand like that development is a massive phase of any film. And I think it ranges from 7 to 10 years before you're going to camera, right? Of like writing and work, but there's more to it than that. Let's say you want to attach a star, and that star wants to take 2 years to work with the writer on the script, or to be available, or anything. Yeah. So I mean, the pitch package is a big deal these days. It seems like that's like a nice PDF. You don't print it as often, but you could. But a nice PDF, like really well designed, structured, and giving you the idea of the movie, stills from other films, maybe even scenes from other films that sort of inspire the vibe. Because what I find when you talk about pitching, you get to this point where you might have reeled someone in to the point where they're like, where they're close, but they're like, you can tell they want to say, can you just show it to me before I buy it? And it's like, no, I need the money to make it first. Yeah. So, but you can tell that's that. Oh, just help me understand what it is. If you could just show it to me first. And that's what we want to do. We want to make it real. But I mean, there's the Banff World Media Festival. Have you ever been to that? Yeah.
Yeah, I hosted a writer session with Aaron Sorkin.
Holy shit, that's awesome.
And
there at Banff?
Wow. That was a few years ago.
That's unreal.
The hilarious thing, he had just been arrested, and I baited him so bad, and I said, can I? And no one was asking him questions. So I'm thinking there can't be any screenwriters here because who wouldn't want to ask him a question?
Of course, yeah.
And I said, would you consider yourself successful? He said, well, I've done well. You know, I've got a lot of really good things. And he told me a great story about he was supposed to be finishing A Few Good Men, and they got mad at him and put him in the Marmont and told him to lock him in there to make him like finish that script.
What's the Marmont?
It's a hotel.
Oh,
like I think 2 or 3 celebrities have died there.
Oh,
it's in LA. So it's where they'll lock him away in one of the casitas. And he said he started watching TV and he was watching late night sports. And then he started thinking about, I wonder what these guys' lives are like. And he wrote a TV series.
Yeah. Sports
while
night,
he was sitting. Yeah. And while he was being paid to finish,
write something else.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, and I said, do you think you're successful? And he said, well, do you think I'm successful? I said, well, we've done some amazing work, but like financially, are you? And he goes, yeah, I do really well. And I said, well, then how come when you got arrested, you only had a quarter gram of coke? And he looked at me and goes, who the fuck are you?
He's the kind of guy who I feel like could either take that really poorly or totally.
He took it really well.
Yeah, good.
Like he was just like shaking his head because you know he had to feel like a bit of an idiot.
Well, of course,
like really, quarter gram, eat it.
Yeah,
but you know, you're not
There's
very.
a simple
experienced.
solution here.
Yes, but to be with some of those guys, to me, like I write a bit, but I don't write on certainly not on that level.
Right.
And you just. Sometimes I watch a film and I watch the writing and I just go, oh my God. And I know in the back of my head, when that person wrote that line, they were sitting there going, oh yeah. Like that's magical.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But don't you think there are some people who are sitting there going like, I'm going to rewrite that. And then it just never happens. So like there are those people who I completely agree who are like nailed it. And it's like just terrible.
I was working on the American in Canada, and I was having a hard time finishing a scene. And I said to the PA that was there, I'm just going to make something up and send it to Howard, and he'll come back and have it fixed. I said, I can't fix it. And he comes back. He goes, what do this? And I went, oh, okay, that makes more sense. And she goes, you knew I said, I couldn't finish it, and I knew he could.
Right, yeah.
So I handed it over.
Yeah, fair enough.
Man,
what kind of show was that? I apologize.
It was a sitcom.
Oh, okay.
It was about an American that moved to Canada and worked in television. It was basically the story of me when I did the morning show here.
Oh, okay. Cool.
And I just, it was a bizarre experience.
I bet. So where did it air?
CBC.
It was on CBC? That's amazing. I'm
it aired
ashamed that I don't know about it.
It aired in Australia, and they called it Frozen. I don't know why they just changed the name.
It's so weird. Oh, I've got.
Have you ever had that happen to one of your projects?
Not on one of my films, but a good friend had a movie called 40 Below and Falling. He shot it in Edmonton, and somebody changed it to A Frosty Affair. Which, you know, I think even he would say
turned it into a porn.
Right, yeah. I think even he would say neither title's great, but yeah, it's, and there's another one. There's a film that was shot here some years ago called Getting In, it was like a sex comedy, you know, all about these virgins trying to get laid before they go to college or something like that. And it got bought by a U.S. distributor, and they changed the title to American Virgins. Which, okay.
I think I've actually heard of
yeah,
that.
Yeah. And
might be on Netflix.
Yeah, and that might sell, right? But the funny thing is they have jokes about Nenshi in it and Canadian money, of course, as well. And so it's just like, okay, this is a very Calgary set movie.
Yes.
You know, North American version.
That's so funny. You know what I always found, like pitching in LA is such a different experience.
I can't say I really have. We did go down one time, but yeah, like the vibe is different there for sure.
Do you think it's easier if you go, you raise your money here and make something, and then is it easier to get the door open to get it seen to a bigger distributor? Because the independents have really blossomed.
Yeah, that's true.
Compared to the big studios.
Do I think it's easier to find an audience afterwards?
Well, to bring it into go to a major distributor,
right.
And I can't remember. the film, but they had a film that was made on tight money,
Right.
and they showed it to a distributor. They said, "We really like it.
Right.
It looks like shit," and they
Yeah.
put them together with a bigger company
Okay.
who backed it and reshot it,
Oh, they reshot it. Wow, that's cool.
which has got to be pretty
Expensive. Yeah,
unbelievable.
yeah. Well, so they must have loved it, yeah, because the one thing that when you're trying to put a financing structure together for a film, one potential source of revenue to put your budget together, let's say you're trying to make, $1 million budget. One thing you can do is like a pre-sale, like a distributor pre-sale, right? So let's say,
Okay.
there's an international distributor who likes the script, and maybe they'll kick in $50,000, or if you're super lucky, $200,000 or something like that. But that kind of thing, I've never succeeded with, and has virtually disappeared. It seems like distributors now know. Filmmakers look at the film made, and then we have our pick, and we can pay for what we
Right.
want, rather than
We
taking
don't
a
have to
gamble.
finance it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Wow. So how we were talking about this before we started, before you got here, and I asked the guys if they had heard the tape of Tom Cruise going ballistic on set,
Right. Yeah.
and it was because he was, there was, I think, the first film being done under COVID protocol.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and things have changed drastically.
And they seem to every month, right? Like all over the world. So yeah, it's
How much more difficult is it right now to shoot something?
so I have a couple potential projects, but this movie Jones and we shot prior to COVID. So I haven't had a lot of hands-on experience with it, but I do know a lot of friends who have, and there seems to be a general idea of like, okay, we're going to group everyone into group A, B, and C depending on how much interaction they have, and then we're going to have different zones. So group A is in zone 1 and group B is in zone 2.
So they're like family and cohorts.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they're doing their best, and I mean there's a million other precautions, but yeah, the interesting thing that I'm finding right now is this IATSE strike that seems to be coming up. and as a producer myself, I understand why we have these super long days. If I rent a crane and it's going to cost me $12,000 to rent the crane for the day, I want to max out that crane. Right?
You want to be done with it.
Exactly. Yeah.
end of the
I don't
day.
want to have to pay for it on the second day. But what COVID has shown us is that when we need to shoot and we need to use these COVID protocols, suddenly the studios have all this extra money for COVID stuff. So I think that's partly why this
Is that a government help, or is that just...
It could be here. Certainly there was, but like overall budgets just have to go up. And if you're Apple or Amazon, you're not getting government support. So I think what that's taught me is like, okay, there is more money available. We don't have to grind people to the bone for 12-hour, 13-hour, 14-hour days and fratter days. I'm sure you know, which is terrible because then you don't really get any kind of weekend. And so I've been kind of like, I understand both sides. I don't want to, wreck people, but I also understand that budgets are so tight and how can we make something if we don't, use everything, wring out every last drop. But what COVID has shown me is that there is more money, right? And so if we don't have to treat people like that, which I kind of thought we did, then let's not treat people.
That's
people
kind of
like
a good thing. It's kind
it
of
is,
like
yeah.
good-hearted.
And it's woken me up to it for sure. So yeah. I mean, what seems to be prevalent now is trying to shoot for, say, like a 10-hour day. So a crew works 10 hours, cast works 8, and you go home and maybe have dinner with your family, right? So that would be
which would have been unheard of 5 years ago.
Exactly. Yeah. So this strike could maybe get us there to some degree, which would be cool. Even though it's in the U.S., it seems to already be.
It'll have an effect.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I find all of that bizarre, and it's so changed the viewing habits. Mm-hmm. And I actually thought, well, they won't be able to produce anything.
Right. Yeah.
And at a certain point, I sit there and think, I have literally watched everything watchable on Netflix.
Yeah.
Now I'm on to Crave, almost done with
Okay,
that.
all
Like
right.
every platform.
Yeah.
And it's almost like you look at it and go, I can't believe the content.
Yeah. It's unreal. Like in what, like the volume is
Yeah,
not
the
enough for you?
volume.
It's but
Yeah.
you're working your way through it. You're saying like for me, Netflix is like I'll never get there. I'll never
Yeah.
get to the point where I'm like, yeah, there's nothing to watch on Netflix anymore. But I'm hearing that from more people than just you that yeah, there's nothing I want to watch there. I'm not saying you're not saying you've watched everything, but everything
No.
that interests you, you've watched.
I've moved on to different countries.
right, yeah.
I was watching stuff from France for
Right,
a while.
yeah. And
a lot
there's
from South America.
right.
And a couple of my friends told me, I said, oh, you got to watch this thing from Colombia. And I said, the acting is unbelievable. And he goes, those guys are like giant stars.
Right, yeah.
And like,
But we've never heard of them over here, yeah.
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And then, but the transition, it's like, okay, I think I've gained a respect for other viewpoints.
Right.
And they do it a lot different.
Yeah.
And I was saying before the thing, I watched a detective series from France, and it's from France, and it nudity.
Right.
And I was telling my ex-wife, I said, you should watch it. It's really good. And she said, I looked at it when you mentioned it the first time, and I'm not so big on the nudity thing. And I said, no, it's appropriate nudity.
All right.
And she said, what does that mean? I said, the only people you see naked are being autopsied.
Wow.
And in North America, they pixelate it.
Yeah.
But over there, it's like, no, you're getting an autopsy, you'll be naked.
Of course, yeah.
And
Well,
just nothing to it.
yeah, well, and that's that country too, right?
Yes.
So my expectation when you said it too is like, oh yeah, they're just going to find a way to put nipples in, regardless. That's France, right? Like,
Yeah.
they'll do it on the billboard. But yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
Well, and the funny thing is they had a couple of sex scenes and both people were covered.
Oh, really?
And it was just like...
Well, and that goes to show as well that like, I mean, is there a reason to show nudity? Or not, I think is a question that any director has to ask, right? When they're shooting a scene like that, because, and I had one in Plainview, and it was really, we found it really difficult to frame out and hide the nipples, and the actor I was working with she was like, let's just show it. Who cares? Like, she didn't care, and I was like, the problem is we've previously agreed that we weren't going to do that, so now on set I don't want to change that. And so we kept working at it and we got it, but it was, frustrating in the moment when, of course, there's always the time crunch. But yeah, it's the question is why, right? Why are you showing?
Is it absolutely necessary?
Yeah, is there a good reason? I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
Other than the human the human animal brain.
I don't know that I would ever get to the point that I could have that conversation with an actor.
It's not fun. Yeah.
It's essential to you as a scientist for us to see those.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What do you have a favorite thing that you've made?
It's tough. It's so tough to get anything made, right? Like, it's so tough to find a budget. I think, Jonesin is super great. Like, it's probably Jonesin just because it represents like the culmination of my career so far, right? And I work very closely with Scott Westby, who's a part of Full Swing Productions and co-founder, and we have been working. We've done web series and feature films, and we did a super fun series called Paper Champions, which we shot right after Jonesin. And it's like super goofball comedy, and I feel like you might know some of the people who are in it, like Lance Storm. Do you know Lance Storm by chance? He's like a wrestler guy. It was a wrestling show.
I'm not.
Yeah,
oddly enough, not a big wrestling.
No, fair enough. But yeah, it was fun. It was cool. But Jonesin is like, yeah, the culmination of sort of like all of what we've learned sort of as filmmakers. So, and we've got, not to be crass or to downplay any of the super talented people that are in Canada, but like we have a star-ish in it. I mean, a
recognizable actor.
Yeah, to some degree. His name's Brandon Sklenar, and he was in a movie called Vice, which was nominated for Best Picture, but it's the movie about Vice President Cheney.
Yeah.
So
I've seen it.
Yeah. I feel like I say that to people who have seen it, and they're like, I don't remember. It didn't register. Like his other movie was huge. That the one about the crash. Not huge enough for me to remember the name, but it was anyway. So got a small role in Vice, and he's also in a movie called Midway, which is Roland Emmerich did. He's the guy behind Independence Day, big disaster movie guy. Yeah. So Midway was this massive war film that Brandon had a role in, and also did not break through in any way. And we're just like, I wish you would get famous. That would be super helpful if you would get super famous. But we also have Kristen Gutowski, who was in The Handmaid's Tale. And she's also in this new show called Why
Which
the
a
Last
few
Man.
people saw.
Yeah. And she's not
billion.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we've got some names and a little bit of star power, and it's cool to see who knows who when you start talking to distributors too. So that's interesting. I mean, and our first film had a great star named Aaron Douglas, who's in Battlestar Galactica, and again, star. General term, but like people know him. Like people, I'll share the trailer, and people are like, "Oh, that's Chief from Battlestar Galactica," because it's a niche. People know. If you're not a fan of Battlestar Galactica, you don't know. But if you know him, sort of thing. So that's fun. Like when you have a little bit of marketing,
right?
Something right with names.
It was funny because I was watching. I watch KTLA still because I grew up in LA.
Right.
But the brother from Kim's Convenience is like this big action hero guy
huge,
now.
Yeah.
And I'm watching it going, is that the guy from Kim's Convenience?
Yeah. His trajectory is so interesting. And of course, Andrew Fung is in that show as well from
and Andrew I know from around.
I'm sure, yeah. So but yeah, it's funny, he tweeted at Marvel 5 years ago, are we going to talk or what? And then, I'm sure that tweet didn't do it, but it was just an interesting connection of like he asked and it happened, like manifesting, this.
Well, speaking of the nudity thing, it was funny because I saw the clips from the Marvel, and I thought, well, Kim's Convenience would still be on the air if they would have had his shirt off.
Yeah. Well, they did a few times. Yeah, I just got through it. But yeah, he's definitely a well-built human. There's no question about that.
Yeah, I'm not going to start a fight. I'm going to be very respectful.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So this was the one that I went, wow, why don't I know this stuff? So You Jelly
yes,
has a local star in it.
Yeah.
Modern Donuts.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean that one's interesting. I almost said that when you asked me what my favorite is because it was such a unique thing because at that time web series were brand new. Like people didn't really know what it was. I think we were the second web series to ever shoot in Calgary, but it was funded by Jelly Modern Donuts, right? Like it was a sort of a unique piece of marketing where it was like they were paying, and it was pretty small budget, but we worked it. We had the guy who made the donuts. We shot all I don't even know how many episodes we did, somewhere around 8, I think. And we had the baker bake. They do a donut every week, so we were going to release an episode every week. So we had him bake
donut of the week.
So there was that donut was featured in every episode. So yeah, it was an early attempt at sort of like guerrilla web series marketing. Yeah. And it worked out well. It was fun. I wish we could do more.
Well, they had the cooking show, which I have a food business, so I'm really interested in that stuff.
Yeah,
but they had one with Superstore. And they would have a competition, and then whoever's recipe won, that recipe, that item would be available at Superstores.
On the shelves, certainly.
They timed it, yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
And it was like, wow, talk about giving a guy a good start in his food career.
No doubt. Yeah, I mean, you look at like what are those shows like the Shark Tank, or what's the Canadian one? The Dragon's Den.
Dragon's Den, yeah.
And like, it's just so interesting how having a good mentor or a good connection of some kind can be so important because, okay, great idea. They're going to buy in. Oh, they won't put us on shelves in Superstore, but the Dragon knows the distribution guy, and it's like, yeah, let's make this happen. And then it works out. I mean, that's a great unlock. So, yeah, that kind of thing. It's interesting. Like people hate reality TV, but like it's I think for many entrepreneurs, it's becoming a legitimate sort of attempt,
doorway,
right? Yeah. Why not? I mean,
the guy with the doorbell thing that everybody turned him down.
Yeah, that's right.
Sold the company for like $1 billion or something.
That's crazy. Yeah, it's true. It's I mean, but we have to turn everything into entertainment. This seems to be what's happening, right?
Has to
everything we do has.
Well, certainly we've turned the news into entertainment.
100%.
It is no longer the news.
Yeah, especially post-Trump. It's a very different world now.
Yeah, we're not quite post-Trump
I shouldn't say
yet.
post-Trump. You're right. I shouldn't say that.
Yeah, we're doing the best, okay?
Yeah.
We're really embarrassed. And it cracks me up when if I talk to any of my American friends, so they're like, well, yeah, but you got Trudeau. Oh, please. Trudeau can't hold a candle
Yeah, how
to
are these
Trump.
comparable? Yeah, no doubt.
You know, he's entitled. I'll give you
For
that.
sure, for sure.
And nobody appears to like him, yet he still gets elected. But oddly enough, right before the election, everybody got another month of money.
Oh, is that right? I didn't know that.
That was the old-fashioned way. They used to in America. They would give people $5 to go in and vote the way they wanted them to.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's like a serious voting law now in the U.S.
Wow.
I'm sure it is here too. I'm sure you can't.
Yeah.
Although in the U.S. for a while the bars were closed on election day.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah, so you don't go in and make bad decisions. And really, speaking as an alcoholic, you just want the day over.
Right.
You know, you're an alcoholic. You're probably going to make a bad decision somewhere that day.
Right. If you can just get to bed again. at
You'd
the end
get
of the-
more voters if you would put the polling stations in the bars.
Right. I think that's 100% true. Absolutely.
That would be a good thing to do.
Yeah, maybe before, and then you get to drink after you voted.
Trying to think of who I know in the government that can help with that. But I don't think I know anybody in the government that would help with that.
Right. So I didn't know that you were from L.A. originally. That's.
I was actually born in Compton, California.
Really. That's cool. That's
at
cool.
Compton General Hospital.
Wow, unreal. So when did you make the move?
1988.
Okay,
1988 or 89.
Okay,
I made the official move.
I was 2 or 3. But what made you move?
Shut up.
I don't look at it, so it's
You know what? Second wife.
okay.
Currently, sadly, my second ex-wife.
Right, but I just hearing on a previous episode that you're still very much friends, at least, right?
Yeah, you know what? When I went through all this surgery thing, she was so great to me and
That's
took
awesome,
really
yeah.
good care of me. Although she did say a really funny thing that right after the surgery, she took me back to my condo and I was not the happiest human being at that point.
Right.
And she basically kind of looked over and says, well, I'm going to go home. You're being an asshole. I thought, yeah, there's the good part of the divorce.
That's
for you.
absolutely. We can be friends, and that's the line. See you
Yeah,
later.
we had Thanksgiving dinner together
That's
last
awesome.
night with
That's
our
awesome.
daughter and her fiance. And
Very nice.
yeah,
It blows me away. It feels like those, maybe it's because I watch too many movies and TV shows, but it's like that. Those two roles are like, oh, we hate each other. I hate my ex. It doesn't have to be that way, right?
no, I mean, obviously, at some point, you love that person.
Of course, yeah.
You know, and I still do love her.
Mm-hmm.
She had said for years, if the house next door comes up for sale, I'm going to buy it and move you over there.
Right.
But I spent so much time on the road; it was really easy.
Right. Interesting.
But
So you were doing comedy in LA and moved for love.
I was in and out of LA by that time.
Okay,
I was doing comedy all over the West Coast, and
Gotcha,
actually probably Central America too, or
cool.
Central U.S.
Right. Gotcha. That's awesome.
But
So when you landed here, was it A Channel, or obviously A Channel didn't exist?
No,
There's a big gap there. But
she was booking comedy. That's
Oh.
how we met.
oh, okay, she's a booker.
Yeah.
Oh,
and so,
amazing. Okay,
well,
cool.
she did a lot more than that. She,
Of course,
She
of course.
ran a company I'm not allowed to mention.
Right. Fair enough.
But, hey, lawsuit's a lawsuit. But, yeah, and it just, what was funny was I'm an opportunist for comedy. Like anytime something happens.
Right.
And when I moved up here, half my act was about, when I first moved here, I was doing 45 minutes about religion.
Right.
Which I found out Canadians had less of a stomach for than Americans.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, but I started doing all of this stuff about everything I noticed that was so different.
Right.
And one of the simplest observations was French and English labeling.
Right. Yeah.
And the bit was, you go to the store and you pick up a can of something, you're reading it, and you go, oh, fuck, I don't speak French. And I think every audience there had to be half of them had done it.
Of course.
Yeah, so it's. But you move to Alberta, you're not seeing a lot of French.
It's true. It's true. I worked at a car rental company for a while, and somebody came in with an international driver's license, and usually we're cool with that.
Spy.
Yeah, well,
Probably
exactly.
a spy.
Yeah. But it was in French. and they were furious with me that I was like, I can't read this, so I don't know what it says. Like, I can't use this as a valid form of identification. And they had a good point that you're a bilingual country.
Is,
what do you?
Yeah. What are you doing?
Yeah, exactly.
And they were from France?
I don't know where they were from. It was
because you couldn't read them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I felt a little bit silly, right? Like, we are a bilingual country, and suddenly I was like, oh, okay, this is why I was supposed to learn French in high school and never really.
Because this will come up.
It hasn't come up very much, but yeah, I think he was in the right there. I couldn't do anything to help him, but yeah.
Well, it's only when I'm in Montreal for a festival or something is the only time that it really comes up for me.
Yeah.
And Montreal is both the hottest and coldest place I've ever been.
Is that right?
Huh. Yeah, it's just it's the humidity.
My brother loves it. My brother went. He's an artist, and he was like, "I'm moving here." It seems like another place with a lot of culture. It's an older.
It is
older city, right? Like, and New York is the same way. Like, there's something about just like, there's actual generations of culture here. Not whereas Calgary has it, but it doesn't feel like it's aged yet. Right?
It doesn't have the same depth.
Yeah, exactly.
And when you run into someone that doesn't at all speak English, it becomes difficult because we're not used to trying to work it out.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And to me, it's like, well, John, who is from Brazil,
right.
Every once in a while we have kind of this break where I don't think that means what you think. And we worked it out and figured out what it was.
Yeah.
And what's funny is I always find that the person that it's not their first language becomes apologetic. And I said to John, the odds of me, it's better odds of me teaching you English than you teaching me Portuguese.
Right, yeah.
I had a way bigger crack at that.
Yeah, for sure. And it always, it's so weird how we have this predetermined, like, my apologies for my English. It's like, you know 3 languages, I know 1, and the chances of me learning a second are very low at this point. You're the smarter individual here, clearly.
Yeah, I had a girl in Italy apologize for her bad English. I said, it's okay, we're in Italy.
You're home. Like,
yeah, and I got through in my broken Spanglish from growing up in California, and I didn't even know I wasn't actually learning Spanish.
Is that true? There's it's its own thing?
Yep.
Oh, okay, all right.
But, I found through traveling that even in the Central American and South American countries, there's different kind of versions.
Is it dialects?
Is that the dialects. Right word? Yeah. And I was looking for a corner store to buy beer because, I think I mentioned I was an alcoholic.
Right.
And I didn't know what they called them. And I was like, Mercado. And I was like, Poquito Mercado. And they're like, no say. No say. And I kept coming up with stuff. And finally, the guy walks me down the street, and there's a corner store. I said, yes. And he goes, Mini Super. Like, where the hell does Mini Super? Like, how is
That's
that?
English.
Yeah. It's not connected to anything I was trying to talk about.
Mini Super. All right. Interesting.
Yeah. And the people that were the 24-hour-a-day guards were all from Nicaragua, and they spoke a totally different dialect.
Right. Okay. Interesting. I went to Nicaragua one time with a guy who spoke Spanish, and he was great to have. Yeah. But yeah, I didn't even think to ask him, like, is it different here than where you learned Spanish? Or yeah, I don't know how that works.
Well, and in Spain, they think they're the only ones that actually speak Spanish.
I'm sure, yeah.
Much as in the UK, they actually think they're speaking English.
The kings, of course, yeah.
Yes, which is, if I have to say, I'm sorry, what? Like 5 times? I don't know that that's...
Water. That's one, yeah.
Yeah.
So what? Like, I don't mean to turn the interview on you, but you also mentioned Larry Day, who I got to meet a couple of times.
Yeah.
And he was like, so I don't know if you want to chat at all in your notes there. We have a podcast called the Alberta Filmmakers Podcast, and we were, for a few years there, we were interviewing people such as yourself, and not just filmmakers in the term of like I'm a director, but like anyone and everyone around entertainment, right? Like, in my opinion, a filmmaker is anybody who contributes to the creation of a film. And so Larry was somebody I'm choked I never got on the podcast because he's like towering pillar of this city and even more like he was all over. Like he was in LA as well to some degree.
Well, he had the movie show.
Right. Yeah.
So, and I would say, I don't know how many people he discovered.
Yeah.
That are on air, and many of them still on air.
Right. Yeah.
And I was talking to a guy. I was at the Blind Beggar doing a show, and I was talking to one of the guys that had worked at Calgary 7, 2 and 7, and Global with me, all incarnation. And he said it was just like stunning. Like I don't know, over 50 that are still in the industry.
On camera, really? Wow.
On camera talent.
Unreal.
And I said, you know, he like really like the thing he should have done is just become a giant headhunter for these guys that are getting $1.5 million a year.
No doubt, yeah.
Doing local news in the U.S. And it pays a fortune in the U.S. And here it's a living, but it's good living.
Yeah.
But he would have been the best talent scout ever.
No doubt, yeah. Well, and not to mention like with that show and another show, there was like another incarnation of it. I think
he did different versions that went all over the world.
But his in his office, pictures with like Michael J. Fox and like huge crazy people. He's So I'm choked that he's passed away now. It's and it feels very recent. So were you close?
We were for a while.
Yeah,
we had kind of lost track of each other.
Yeah.
But you know what was funny was doing the junkets for those pictures. The big deal was everybody get a picture taken with the star, and I always felt like I was bothering people, so I just didn't do it.
Right.
And I can't remember who the actor was, but they said, "Would you like a picture?" I said, "No, thank you," and laughed. And I thought, well, that was way ruder than getting a picture.
I didn't mean it that way. I was trying to be nice by ignoring you. That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds
I'm
like
doing Treat Williams next. So I didn't get a picture with him. He's incredible.
Oh yeah. It sounds like there must be a lot of good stories from those days because
news was totally different then, and they were buzzing. I mean, it's like when I first started at A Channel, we had 170 people in that building working.
Whoa!
And there were no radio stations in there. That was all TV.
Right.
And man, we had all the cameras in the world, and you could get all the content.
Right,
and now, sometimes I think I mentioned this before on a podcast. If you're watching a newscast and there's a misread, odds are it was not written correctly.
Right.
And just nobody caught it because there's not enough staff anymore.
Yeah.
The money's just not there because there's so much content everywhere else.
I know a reporter for City who she does everything. She and it's been this way for a while.
She a videographer,
on camera, editor, writer, she does everything
for
to
every
her
story.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Probably not what she signed up for.
No, and they're also doing selfie videos, right? They have a decent quality camera, but they're also just recording on the fly. And that's airing. That's broadcast news, which is kind of
a little bit
cool.
amazing that you're. And I know there have been films shot on on phone
for sure. Yeah. I think Tangerine is one. I think maybe I have the title.
I think there's 3 or 4.
There's a few,
that I remember reading an article about.
Yeah, I mean, and it's so interesting that every new incarnation, this latest iPhone has like an ability to rack focus from me to you just by tapping, which is crazy and very cool. But
that's insane.
It is, yeah. But then there are also people who will argue that, well, those cameras have been around. You can already do that on a cheaper camera for whatever. But my phone can also play solitaire, so it's amazing that it's
yeah, which comes in handy.
Exactly, yeah.
Especially on flights.
Right. Yeah. I should have picked a better game. What's a popular game right now?
I don't know. I have solitaire. That's the only one I play, but I'm 63. So don't be shocked if you're on a plane with me and I pull out a deck of cards.
Right. So I saw you do stand-up one time, and you...
Where were we?
We were at the Comedy Store. Not the Comedy Store. The Comedy... Oh, shoot. It's at the Blackfoot. What's
the Laugh Shop?
The Laugh Shop. That's it, yeah. Comedy Store is quite famous. And
I have played there too.
Have you really?
Yeah,
dude, amazing!
Yeah,
Holy
years
shit,
ago.
That's awesome.
I followed Rosie O'Donnell her first night on stage in L.A.
Holy shit, that's unreal.
And it's
Where at?
A friend of mine in the original room, which is the small, nobody knows who you are, and
Right, okay.
one of your friends gets you on.
Right.
And I followed Rosie O'Donnell, and every agent and manager and important person left the room with her. And my friend of mine said, that's going to go down as a classic at the Comedy Store. And I said, I walked up and I said, great. Everybody that I wanted to have see me just left with that chick from the Midwest. And yeah, that's what I want to do, entertain people from Pasadena. Fuck me. And
That's
it
crazy.
just totally negated my first time getting on stage.
Yeah, that sucks. But you mentioned you have quite a large family, right? Like
4 kids, 11 grandkids.
11 grandkids. I was
and
like 11
one
something.
great-granddaughter,
Holy wow, that's amazing.
Zola.
That's very cool. And how does that feel like I want to say like that's a really full life. That seems awesome.
I hardly get to see any of them.
Is that right?
They're all running their own lives.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
You know?
seem far too young for that, but that's awesome.
Thank you. So you don't have to say that. You're already on. You're on the show. Do you have a project that you didn't get done that killed you?
Oh yeah, we've got one that Scott has written that we. I wonder how much I can certainly tell you about it. It's called Synapse, and it's.
I did read a bit about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
We've been trying to get it made for 11 years now, and the challenge is it's a sci-fi, and it's in the vicinity of like 3 to 4 million. And so when we were starting out, what we came to realize was nobody wants to fund a first-time director's film at that level. You have to start at
money-wise.
It's smaller budgets than that. So that's kind of been the long-term plan. It's
still on the shelf though.
It's still
when
around.
you build to that range.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, he features in it. It's I don't know what year it's set, but like probably 10 years from now, he included like rather than smartphones in this near future sci-fi movie, we have what are called folds. And the FOLD stands for something too clever for me to remember. But it's like a translucent sort of piece of plastic that you can sort of fold up and put in your pocket. And we don't have cell phones anymore, and it projects. And of course, when he wrote it, that didn't exist. But now there are phones that fold, right? Like
you got to come up with something.
Yeah,
different.
yeah, it's a thing now. It's so weird, yeah. But yeah, so it's a sci-fi. Sort of about a technology that can allow you to access the human mind like a hard drive. So imagine like just being able to share skills or talents or cure things like any sort of mental disorder or whatever. So yeah, it's cool and it's fun. And we've chatted with a couple of big names about it, but it hasn't materialized yet. So that's a killer. I love sci-fi, and we haven't done one. Yeah, so it would be nice to do.
I wonder. My favorite COVID, you're out of your mind, shut up, was they're putting in trackers in your shot.
Oh, yeah.
And I've been saying on stage, I had no idea how important my whereabouts were to Bill Gates.
Right.
And I said to the guy that first said that to me, I said, I can find you with your phone.
Yeah, no doubt, yeah.
They can track you already.
Of course, we're all being tracked already. It's over, man. Yeah.
And the ability to buy into that. And I'm kind of surprised after 4 years of Trump that there aren't more just flat out conspiracy takeover films. Because in my opinion, he took a pretty good shot at trying to take over America as a god.
Without a doubt, yeah. Yeah, in like that January 6th was like, I was flabbergasted. Like it was like a
surreal event.
Totally. I was like, I can't imagine what I'm seeing is real. Like to see them actually get into the Capitol was like, how can this possibly be reality? It was very weird. Yeah.
Well, you would believe it in a film,
right? Of course, absolutely, yeah.
But when you're watching it in real time, going, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah, and like, yeah, just the leave all the other politics out of it. Like, how do they not have enough security,
firepower?
Exactly. How is that?
Yeah, so
how's that
it'll
possible?
come down to something. But and my brother-in-law in the States, big Trump supporter.
Oh, okay.
And he wrote on that day, "That's it. I give up on Trump." And I just wrote, "Fuck, really? This is what it took?"
That's what it takes.
Holy crap!
A couple people have to die. Yeah. All right.
And I said, the great thing about living in Canada, Canadians will never storm the parliament.
Right.
They would go up. We don't mean to interrupt. But we had a couple of questions.
Pardon me.
Yeah, would you mind? Should we come back? Is there a better time? And Canadians are it's so funny.
Yeah, it's true.
And when I was working the cruise ships, everyone from the U.S. was saying, well, Obama, we're afraid with this socialized medicine. We heard people just die in the hallway in Canada. And I said, no, they don't. And he said, so we shouldn't be worried? I said, I wouldn't be worried if you were getting Canadian type medical care,
Right.
but that's not what you're getting.
No.
You're getting something that the insurance companies have figured out how to still make a buck off of.
Exactly. The HMOs are way too big a part of that whole system to let it happen. Yeah.
Oh, there's too much money in it.
Yeah.
Kind of like the big theory, if you found a cure for cancer, they'd kill you.
Right. Well, and that's, I mean, there's partially that's part of the conspiracy theory around the vaccine too, is right. Like, oh, they're going to keep making us get boosters and it's tough
They're
because
free.
For sure. But the pharmaceutical companies are definitely making bank, as they should, for creating it. But I mean, I think that's what sparks some of that, is like, oh, Johnson & Johnson's getting rich off of this. And I mean, thank goodness somebody created a vaccine. Like, I honestly wasn't sure we would have one at this point. But that's the tough part of QAnon and Trump is they take things that are true, a couple of things that are true, like, oh yeah, a pedophile ring was disrupted. Q had nothing to do with it, but you're going to pretend like it is, and you're going to use real facts to make your fake facts seem real. The internet's a scary place.
It is, and they don't seem to be. They just had a whistleblower.
Yeah, Facebook. Yeah,
talking about Facebook,
Yep.
and man, I wouldn't sleep well if I were her.
No doubt. Yeah. Yeah, and so many of the whistleblowers that have come out, I don't know how they're still alive. So many of them, it's crazy.
I would think, and what's funny is the amount of. Do you remember the film Conspiracy Theory?
Who's in it? Conspiracy. Yeah,
Mel Gibson.
Yes.
I was about to say the guy that called the cop sugar tits, because everybody would remember.
Oh
that.
yeah, of course. Yeah.
But it was basically about a conspiracy theorist that had it right,
and he had one right. He believed every conspiracy, but one of them was accurate, and that's true. Of course, some conspiracies are real. It's we shouldn't paint every conspiracy theorist as insane, but
they base everything on just a pinch of truth.
Yeah, exactly.
And then expand on it.
I forgot about Conspiracy Theory. I have seen it, and it's been years, and I want to see it again.
It's a really Julia Roberts.
Yeah, I feel like it is a good movie. Yeah, but now you're making me think of Ransom as well, which another Mel Gibson movie I want to watch for sure.
I was talking to somebody the other day, and they said, "Well, you won't believe what's going to come out as soon as they decode Hunter Biden's computer." I said, "You actually believe somebody found his laptop that still had damaging information, and the guy took it to a repair shop?" Like, are you actually this stupid?
It's
like,
mind-blowing.
please.
Yeah. And that was the smoking gun. Like, that was their whole political bullet in the Biden campaign. And that was it. Okay, all right. Yeah, I mean, and so maybe how does it feel to see addiction being demonized that way from your perspective?
It's really funny because I look at it in this odd way. I consider it very much a bit of a mental disorder. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's any doubt that it's an inherited trait.
Right.
I used to say to people, I don't know if it's a disease, but I know I have it.
Right.
And it really is. At a certain point, it doesn't matter how you label it. It is what it is, and it's devastating to millions of people and their families.
Yeah.
Well,
and I didn't even know the opioid situation in Calgary is apparently worse than it's ever been.
It's huge
right now. I didn't know that.
And a lot of it's fentanyl, and it's not like it's actual legitimate pharmaceutical fentanyl.
Yeah.
Made in some of the finest garages in Mexico.
Right. Something that something that sticks out to me about my learning around addiction is, I think, in I probably learned this too late, but the when you're there's a term for it that I'm forgetting, when you're sober for 30 days, 40 days, and then you have a relapse.
Right.
What I now understand is that relapse is part of
The
recovery process. What it was for me, and I think for people who don't, do their research or actually think more than 5 minutes about it, is that, you failed. It's an automatic fail, and you should give up, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But whereas actually relapse is, to see it as part of the recovery process totally shifts it in my brain for me, which makes total sense too. And I think it's not just around drugs, but any addiction.
Any addiction.
It's really, really hard to go cold turkey on anything, right? So
I honestly, out of all the people I've met in the rooms and in rehabs and detox centers, I don't think I know anyone that just stopped.
Yeah. And now, like I said, I learned that later than I should have, but now it makes perfect sense to me, of course, because nobody's perfect, right? We're never gonna.
And I think part of the problem with the relapse thing is that first year, that you're trying to be sober is the toughest one.
Of course.
And now I'm at 6.5 years, and it's not as difficult.
Right.
But I have so much space, and my brain's recovered so much, and my body memory and all of that. But it's that if there was some magical key to getting to that 5-year mark, and I had told friends, and I'd sort of forgot about it, that I just said, I'm going to try for 5 years, and if I make it, great. But if things aren't going any better, I'm going right back at it because I was good at it.
Right.
And I didn't realize it, but I had some people that knew me quite well that started calling me around the 5-year mark. Hey, how's it going, buddy?
Right.
That it clicked. They're trying to find out if I'm going to be, because normally I'm the kind of guy that would say, I'm going to do this, and I would do it.
Right.
But, and for a filmmaker, like, with Jones, and it's kind of one of those subjects you can't get preachy. You can't get because you're going to lose interest. Mm-hmm, I mean, there is some information to be in there. How do you find that balance?
Yeah, I mean, luckily we don't really. Like the whole thing happens, in the span of 2 days in the film, and so we don't actually, we see characters who are potentially addicts, but we don't really go into that in the movie. Unfortunately,
it's not per se about the addiction,
right? And maybe nor should I, as somebody who doesn't have firsthand. I mean, that seems to be the important thing that we're learning as filmmakers right now is like, we're trying to make more room for diversity, and so like the dumb filmmaker in my head will go, okay, so we need to make an indigenous film that I can write and direct. No, it's got to be from an indigenous perspective as well, right?
Right.
I can't write.
And there's an amazing amount of very talented,
for sure, indigenous
writers, actors, directors.
Absolutely.
I mean, we're at last finally no longer using Italians to play Indians, and that always cracked me up. I would go, Dad, that's. I mean, I have cousins that are half to full,
right?
And I'm going, well, that guy looks like the guy we go to this pizza place. It's like, but how difficult is it for you? Because you say you want to be more diverse. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So when you're looking at projects, but to me, once again, just like with the Joneson, it's got to ring true.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I think, my strategy right now is to try to be a part of the shift and support filmmakers and creators of all sorts and backgrounds and so that's right now. I think we're in a big time of transition. So I feel like that's the best option for straight white filmmaker right now is to it's time to make room for other people to get their stories told too.
But it's okay as a producer. Because your job is to get the money, get it organized,
for sure,
get it ready to go.
Yeah.
To you, it doesn't necessarily have to be a straight white guy that you're working with.
No, of course not.
At all.
No, not at all. And I'm trying to find opportunities to support more diverse filmmakers as well, because I feel like that's just where we are. I mean, it's the nice thing to do, it's the right thing to do, but it's also where we are as an industry, I think, right now. And I want to get us to that magical place. I don't know if it actually exists of hey, everybody has an equal shot. Everybody's got an equal sort of experience level, and we can all sort of compete for gigs and work and the small amount of money that's available together. but I don't know if we'll ever get there. I think
To me, it would be nice to watch a commercial and not feel that the diversity in it is so forced.
Right. Yeah.
That it's literally you can sit and tick
For
it
sure,
off on
for
a
sure.
box, and it's just like, what idiot from
Yeah.
the ad agency said, well, what we need is a gay couple, but
Yeah.
not two women. We need two men.
Right.
It's a little more palatable if they're
Right.
And they're that big of douchebags.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And I think the reality is these are the growing pains of this process. It's like we're correcting right now,
Yeah.
and it's going to be messy and it's going to look bad sometimes, and it's not always going to work perfectly.
Well, and you know
I'm
what?
hoping we'll get to that better place.
Being one of the older guys, certainly in the entertainment industry, we've got to make room for the kids. And I think a lot of the diversity in the comedy business it was like really quite something when you had an Indigenous guy on stage.
Yeah.
And there are quite a few comedians in Canada that are.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to say this: if you're an aspiring screenwriter of whatever, race, creed, color, culture, preference, whatever, I don't care. I think I looked at your website.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm looking at it going, what's this with giving away all your secrets
Right.
thing?
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of funny. And you have 8 different tips for screenwriters.
Yeah. And that's what the podcast is about too, is there was a point where I think both Scott and I realized, we're going to have more success. I think the quote is "A rising tide raises all ships," and it's
Nice.
attributed to JFK, but he's not the originator of it. But that was our belief. Was we just
Hitler.
decided?
I think it was Hitler.
Yeah, probably Hitler. We had we had come up against like competition. We were getting enough traction that like people were mad at us, right? Just for having a little bit of success here and there, and it was like, oh, that's weird. And so what and I was young enough to be like, well, fuck them. But now I'm trying to be a little bit more like enlightened to the point of where it's like I will still share whatever I know with them because I think we're, especially in Alberta, the film industry here is it's small enough that we your success is my success and my success is your success. Like I know that sounds like, I don't know, preachy and lame, but I think truly, especially because, as I'm sure you well know, this business is all about, oh, I know somebody who can fill that job right now.
Right.
I'll call them up.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I fully believe that, if I do enough good things and share enough information, I'm going to get a call from somebody saying, oh, can you help us do this? And it'll be a great opportunity. And then I can, do the same for other people. So yeah, it was just like a rejection of like competition and like being angry at people who are making great films. Like, I'm not going to be mad at somebody. I'm jealous. Don't get me wrong. I am 100% jealous of people who make great stuff that I am not able to or haven't yet. But jealousy is different than competition, right? Like I'll happily tell someone I'm jealous of what they've created or what they're doing. But
in a positive way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I want to do it too. I just don't want to have the animosity and secrets.
That's a really big compliment to tell somebody they did something so great that you really wish you would have done it.
I agree. But sometimes we're not in the place to hear it as a compliment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can actually, at 35 years of being in any whatever realms of show business I've been in, I don't know that I can name 5 times somebody got something that I really, really wanted. And probably 4 out of 5 of them, after I saw the project they did, I went, no, I see why they did that.
Right.
That makes way more sense.
It's a good point. Yeah.
But I think if you're going to survive in this kind of business, you got to have that in your heart to be able to go, you know what, it was just greed that made me want that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think we're, the other thing is scarcity, the scarcity mentality in Alberta, that there's so little money to make projects and there's so little opportunities. The acting community, I think, is experiencing it in a big way. But this whole year is different, right? Like we're producing more content in Alberta than I think we've ever seen.
But
before,
the government has made a change back.
Yes. Yeah.
Which for a little while, and I don't remember who was running the province then, but everything disappeared.
Yeah.
And there were people that built gigantic sound stages.
Oh, you're talking like early 90s?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just, nope.
Yeah. Right. And Saskatchewan has done the same thing too. Suddenly the tax credit's gone and it dries up the industry.
But what I don't get, how do you not see the volume of money you're bringing into the province?
Right. It seems like a simple equation, right? Like it's just return on
catering alone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Hotel, like, and that's the cool thing about the industry is like there's so many different industries that it affects. Right?
Yeah. Hotels,
carpentry,
equipment rentals,
tons of stuff. And that's what's cool about the business is that you have so many multidisciplinary people. But yeah, it's odd to me that people don't, like politicians in particular, when they don't get that there's just a simple return on investment here, right? Like you spend $1 and it's bringing back, and there have been plenty of studies. I can tell you there's a Nordicity study that says $1 spent on the film industry from the government comes back in taxes $1.33. So that's
making 30%.
Right. But you know, as far as like economic impact, it could be more like $2, $3, $4 per.
Well, you would think it would have to be because everybody working on the film is paying taxes.
For sure. Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, and just the money that goes right back to the government is the $1.33, whereas there's more that's going all over the economy too. So
carbon tax.
Exactly.
A lot of trucks driving around out there. You know what? One of the things that I did want to ask you about was one of the things you mentioned on the website was to earn your nose.
Yes, I love this concept. Yeah. It's you know, there.
It applies to anything.
For sure, absolutely does. Yeah, and I mean, yeah, it's a big topic. But basically, if you're a filmmaker in Alberta, your most likely source of financing a project, you know, if it's 10,000 or 200,000 or $1 million, is grants, right? Like government grants or grants from like Tell a Story Hive is a big one. Like a lot of people, you know, have their gripes about Tell a Story Hive, but they've injected $4 to $5 million for filmmakers that wouldn't have existed before. So that's you can't argue with that. And so the problem with grants is you get a lot of rejection, right? Like, so that's where that comes from. If you're a screenwriter, if you're an actor, if you're a filmmaker, you know, don't let one no turn you off of the whole process, right? And I think you'll find that your hit rate's better than 1 in 10 if you have the energy for it, right? So yeah, I think it's all about for me as a writer, director, producer, it's about I'm going to try 10 times before I give up on something, right? Because there's going to be somebody who's going to say yes at that point. And so yeah, if you frame it like it's a success that I got to know because that's one down, right? That's just a good mindset to keep you motivated to keep pushing.
Do you ever ask why you got to know?
Yes, sometimes you can, right? Sometimes you can say, "What's the feedback like?" But I just told you we got a rejection from a film festival today, and that's tougher because it's on Film Freeway, and I have no human contact there.
Oh, no back and forth.
Yeah, so I can't say any feedback on why the film was rejected in this case. But usually with a government grant or even, you know, some like an organization like the National Screen Institute, they'll book a call with you and they'll have a half-hour chat about here's why and here's what's what. And the most painful one is always like, we loved it, we just ran out of money. And so you just weren't in the top 10 or whatever it was. So yeah, you can get feedback, and you should. I think you shouldn't be a dick about it, but gently and kindly asking, like, okay, cool, that's cool. Any feedback for me? I try to do that every time because it's a good learning experience. It's a good point. Yeah.
I actually, part of the reason I asked was I learned a really good lesson when I had auditioned for Just for Laughs. I don't know how many times and got no's, and I'm like I know I'm having great shows, and Brent Chiaz was doing the talent at that time, and I said, "Can I ask you why you haven't picked me?" He said, "I just haven't had a show that you fit in."
Right.
And I said, "Explain that to me." And he said, "Well, we build 7 shows in a row, or 6 or whatever. I think it was 6." And he says, we have certain slots that we're filling in each show,
right?
And I had already picked someone where you would have fit in. And I said, well, what? But I'm just funny. He goes, you're really funny. You'll be there.
Right.
And then once you get the door open, they'll actually start calling and going, hey, can you write a bit about this? Because I got a slot that I need. And you would specialty write for them.
Interesting.
And I had taken this as, well, this Shiaz guy's the biggest asshole in the world. Is he not watching? Is he peeing while I'm up there? Like, I killed.
Yeah.
And it was like, no, it just didn't fit in this year.
Right. And I liken that to a film festival. Like if you've got like a shorts program where we're programming 10 shorts, and they find 3 or 4 that they know they like, and they have sort of a similar vibe or a similar connection, or it's a sci-fi or something, then yeah, you could be out. You could have a great film, better than any of those that are selected. But we've got a theme here. We've got it's part of which it's how it goes sometimes.
I got a friend that a comedian by original, but now a screenwriter, and he sent a script to me to read, and I wrote him back and I said, this has got to be a lock. This is like one of the best scripts I've ever read.
Right.
Hugely funny. And it's never been made. And I think I send him a note every couple of years. Fuck, has somebody picked that up yet?
Yeah.
And like I read it and I really
sucks,
liked
yeah.
it, and I'm rooting for it.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't happen.
It's. I mean, there are so many reasons why that might be the case. Like in LA, I'm sure that they hire people to do coverage, and if they recommend a script to an executive to read, it better be really fucking good, right?
Or they won't have a job.
Right, exactly. Yeah. You're wasting my time. So by far the move is to say no, right? And
safe move.
Exactly, yeah. And then they have a middle ground. Apparently, there's like a maybe consider sort of thing. But apparently, they only read the first 10 pages of a script, and if you don't hook them by then, they toss it out because they've got a pile of them, right? So yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, I can see that. One of the things I watched, it was. They were talking about the, what was it, with Cranston, where he was the high school science teacher.
Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad. And it was like they were kind of doing a table read.
Right.
But it was a bit of an interview too.
Okay.
And they said, why did you decide on this? And he said, I'm going to read you the first page.
Right.
And it was literally, it's in the guy's mixing drugs in a trailer in the middle of the desert in boots, a mask, and boxer tidy whities. And he said, they had me there.
Yeah,
he said hook. Everything I'm reading it going, man, that'd be fun. And then that takes off across the desert.
Yeah.
And in a page,
and that's
they
how they
did their
did,
star.
That's how they did the show. Like that's the first scene of the show, and he's and the cops are coming towards him, and that's where that scene ends. And it's a great hook. It's a great example of how you hook an audience right away, like first couple pages. Yeah, it's tough. And the other thing that's interesting, and I'm just learning this, is there's a rise of we know there's a rise of streaming, but there's also a rise of advertising supported streaming, like Tubi. Do you know Tubi?
Yep.
Yeah. So Tubi. Apparently, the thing with Tubi is like people, they're not paying, but they're also going to stick around for about 20 minutes. And if you haven't hooked them by then, they'll go to something else. And that's what the data is reflecting, right? So it only further supports the idea that you have to hook your audience, even if they haven't paid for it. They don't care, right? Like they're moving on. Yeah.
Did you ever see the series Huff?
I haven't, but I've heard it's good.
You need to.
Yeah.
It is. Now I can't tell you what the scene is because you have to watch it.
Right. All right.
And it was within 3 to 5 minutes. I'm watching it, and I just went, "Holy fuck!"
Sweet. Okay.
And it was like, okay, now I got to watch this.
That's what you need. It
was just so dramatic and effective.
Right. Even like I'm watching The Sopranos for the first time. And it doesn't have to be like an explosion or a gunfight or something, but the fact that it's like, a mobster in therapy. It's a fascinating idea, right? Like I can watch this for
because he feels bad,
right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's such a great concept, and that's the kind of thing you need is that high concept and tell us what it is right away. And it's tough. I'd love to hear more about the script though. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, I'll see if I still have a copy, or I'll send him a note and say, hey, I got somebody. Maybe you should send that script to. And I'm sure he's written and sold other scripts.
Yeah, okay.
Too, so he's not untried and true.
Right.
My most bizarre, I was working Kansas City, Kansas, and Kansas City, Missouri, across the river from each other.
I did not know that. Okay.
And I worked for a comedy club there, and he owned one on both sides.
Oh, okay.
And it was one of those where you learn not to ask too many questions. and he invited me and the headliner from the other club for Thanksgiving dinner. So it's a timely story.
Oh, nice, yeah.
And he's doing a prayer, and he says, and God bless our two guests who are filling the seats of my sons who are unfortunately incarcerated. And me and the other comedian just went. And so I got to the club that night, and I said, we were at dinner, and he goes, no questions. Okay.
That's it.
And I thought, I'm smart enough to know when to shut up.
That's so funny.
My sons who are unfortunately incarcerated.
Right. That's all we're going to say about that.
Yeah. Well, if you had to, you went to TIFF, you've done tons of stuff, and you're just kind of on the rise with all
Never
of it.
feels that way, but thank you for saying that. That's cool.
Yeah, I'm sure it feels like you finish one and go, God, how are we going to get another one?
Career's over now. Yeah.
So welcome to addiction. That's exactly how it goes.
A little medication for that.
Yeah. And obviously, if you just go to the site for Full Swing, all of your contact information is there.
Yeah, and if people are interested in seeing the movie, I did a little marketing trick. jonesandfortickets.com is where you can get tickets to when we were at Calgary International.
Okay.
Yeah. But hopefully we get into another festival, and that link will become valid again, because right now it just takes you to, you can't do anything because the festival's over. But whatever festival we get into next, I'll connect it to that. So jonesandfortickets.com, and yeah, Full Swing Productions, and I'm on the internet as well, Matt Watterworth. I'm going to pull your move. Just Google me. Just
It is. You have a really different name.
Yeah, it's true. It's a good point. Before we go, though, can you quickly tell me where did the podcast come from? How did this come about? I was trying to track your trajectory a little bit, but now...
Oh, you know what? I've always... It's funny because I had a blog for a while, and kind of my management made me do it.
Right.
And my first blog said, I can't believe anybody gives a fuck if I went to the grocery store today. And I really negated the idea of it all.
Right.
And I don't think that I thought I had something to share that was that big of a deal or helpful. Like, I wanted to be helpful, informative.
Yeah.
I want really good, interesting guests that add a value to all of this. And I came to another podcast with John as a guest. And before I left, he said, what would you think about doing a podcast?
Oh, nice. All right. Sweet.
And I went, yeah, that'd be fun. I don't have too many millions of things going on in my head right now.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah, and, it's been great. And,
That's awesome.
And the guests we've had have been very open and very honest.
I've been loving it so far. Yeah, the last one was heavy duty, for sure.
Yeah, it was a little serious.
Yeah. Kenneth is very cool, though.
Kenneth, I don't know if you've checked out his Instagram.
I think I did, yeah.
He's a stunning photographer.
Yeah. And then I'm forgetting the second guest name.
Gary Swanson.
I just love listening to you guys talk about movies. Like, that was great.
He's brilliant.
Yeah.
Like, he's one of those guys. And I swear to you, at my 50th birthday party, I had people coming up going, who the fuck's the big scary guy?
He's a total teddy bear, though.
He is.
Yeah,
He's like one of the kindest, nicest men, and you need to see a short that he did.
Oh, please, yeah.
And it's called House Hunters International for Serial Killers.
Okay, sweet.
And I'm sure you'll be shocked to find out he plays the serial killer.
All right. I want to see it.
I'd really appreciate you being on.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for watching, and I'll mention your podcast too. So
sure, yeah, the Alberta Filmmakers podcast. We're sort of on hiatus right now, but hopefully we can bring it back soon. And thank you so much for having me. This is a blast.
Great.
Loved getting to know you.
Yeah, me too. This has been a lot of fun.
Cool.
Good to find a new friend.
And my new mug.
There you go. You got something to drink out of, which seems like a bad theme for this show. You know what? Once again, check us out on Facebook and Instagram at Sober Not Sane. Like us and watch us on YouTube. Listen to Spotify and Apple Podcast. And either one of us, just Google our names. There's no others. And thanks again to Liz from the camera store for helping out with our equipment. And as you know, very important part of everything.
For sure.
And we'll see you next time.
The camera store rules, by the way. They're great. So
there you go.
That's very cool that they're supporting you.
An unsolicited plug for them.
I love the camera store. And I cut off your extra. I'm sorry.
No, it doesn't matter. We'll just goodbye.